in a universe full of ideas. We draw lightness from the dark to a place where opposites attract. Right meets left, positive touches negative, sparking an explosion of truth. Because politics makes strange bedfellows.
So somehow I kind of stumbled into journalism too, even though I was kind of a natural at it, like you. But I just, I wanted to be a musician. That was my life's dream. And my folks were always trying to tell me, they didn't discourage me, but they encouraged me to have a backup plan, right?
Of course,
Go have another career so you can have a real job. And so journalism was supposed to be my backup plan. That was my backup career.
Oops.
Oops. And I was barely out of high school, Rick, when I got offered a scholarship for journalism to go to OU. And my freshman year, I'm like 17 years old. And I got hired at the local newspaper here, the Daily Oklahoman, to be a news writer on the city beat, covering fires and murders and courts and stuff like that. And then ended up getting a job in radio, which is what I really wanted to do. I love to write, but I loved broadcast journalism. And people told me, hey, you have a nice voice. You should be on the radio. So I went into radio broadcasting, and I was hired by a legendary station here that's unfortunately defunct, called KEBC. Keep Everybody Country is what it stood for. That's KEBC radio.
You worked in a barn.
It was literally a barn. I'm not joking. With a big transmitter in the backyard.
Yeah.
And you can see our news vehicle there parked out front.
Is that a 1972 Plymouth Satellite or something?
You know what? That just might be. I think that might be Plymouth Satellite.
I'm not sure.
I don't remember because they never let me drive the damn thing. I'd only gotten my driver's license the year before. I don't think they trusted me yet with the news car, so I never got the keys to the car. But the guy who did drive the car was our news director, Bo Nance, who was a legend. He was on WKY Radio News. He was our news director. He'd been at WKY for like 35 years. He was one of the grand old newsmen, and he was my mentor and taught me everything I know. So I'm going to embarrass myself now. Oh, God. And I'm going to play you a tape from my first year in broadcast journalism. This is 1986, when Ronald Reagan was president. God, I'm old. I'm so old. This was during the first Cold War. Interesting top story, though. Check this out.
The verdict is guilty on all counts of espionage. Good morning at 6 a.m. We have clear skies, 74 degrees on KEBC, Oklahoma City. Clayton Lone Tree has become the first U.S. Marine ever convicted on spy charges, those charges being that he traded U.S. secrets with the KGB for sexual relations with a Soviet woman. He now faces a sentence of life in prison, but defense attorney William Kunstler plans an appeal. He says Lone Tree didn't give the Soviets anything they didn't already know, and he says furthermore that his client is being made a scapegoat in a bungled investigation of embassy security. However, sentencing is set for Monday. Another U.S.-led convoy is on the move back through the Persian Gulf.
The warship that brought the three Kuwaiti tankers yesterday, the third convoy of Kuwaiti tankers, appears to have waited outside in the international waters to bring back these four tankers.
Correspondent Nabila Magali. Word of this comes not even 18 hours after a U.S. defense official reported a trio of the tankers docking in Kuwait. Apparently, the U.S. is wasting no time in taking care of business in the Persian Gulf. The rebel groups at the heart of two of the worst uprisings in Central America have agreed to hold peace talks with their governments. The Nicaraguan Contras and the Salvadorian Liberation Front have accepted a proposal by El Salvador's President Jose Duarte that envisions a Central American ceasefire by November 7th. This was all part of the peace plan accepted by 5 Central American nations in recent weeks. And some of Gary Hart's former aides are scoffing at the idea that there may be another try for the White House. One former advisor calls such talk outlandish, and pollster Lou Harris says Hart would have a real tough time if he got back in the race. Hart quit the first time around amid charges he had been seeing actress model Donna Rice. How hot was it? Well, it was so hot in July that government experts figure it cost Americans an extra $195 million to air condition their homes. And First Lady Nancy Reagan's birthday bash happens today on the Reagan's Ranch in California. The White House says she'll be 64, and although her birthday is actually on July 6th, it's tradition in the Reagan family to celebrate it on their yearly August vacation. In Oklahoma news, Kay County residents have come to the rescue. They've donated housing, furniture, food, and clothing to a Ponca City family who lost their home, all their possessions, and 2 small daughters in a Thursday morning fire. And a battle is in the makings for Oklahoma and Arkansas over the Illinois River. Yesterday, Attorney General Steve Clark of Arkansas had some fighting words for Sooners who oppose a waste treatment plant in Fayetteville. He says if the opposition continues, then Arkansas will be forced to take some cities to court for dumping their wastes in the river. In sports, Detroit holds a mere percentage point lead over Toronto in the American League East after last night's baseball action. The Tigers lost twice to Cleveland, while the Blue Jays fell to California. In the West, Oakland won and Minnesota lost, so now the Twins' lead over the Athletics is 3 games. St. Louis moved up 3.5 games ahead of New York in the National League East. The Cardinals won, while the Mets and Expos lost. San Francisco won and took advantage of a Cincinnati loss to move into a 1-game lead over the Reds in the West. And KEBC weather for today, sunny and hot with a high near 100 degrees. Tonight, partly cloudy, a slight chance of a few thunderstorms. And tomorrow, partly cloudy, a 30% chance of those thunderstorms, a high of only 93. Currently, it's clear and 74 degrees in the city. And Oklahoma's new leader, KEBC.
Boy, is that embarrassing. I sound like Minnie Mouse.
KEBC in Oklahoma.
We did have some fun jingles. I still remember them, too. I could sing them, but I'm not going to. Oh, how embarrassing. I had this little high-pitched voice that I was like... But
No, you had a great voice.
I guess that's why they hired me.
You had everything going for you.
Yeah, I was 17, man. I had the
Holy
world
smokes, it
in the
was great.
palm of my hand.
You certainly
17
did.
years old.
Yeah.
That was an interesting case. I don't know if you remember that story, the Clayton Lone Tree story. It was one of those Cold War spy capers. He was a U.S. Marine, and I know that Scott Ritter sure as hell remembers that story, because every Marine over there in the Soviet Union guarding embassies, that's what Scott Ritter was doing at the time. Everybody knew about the Clayton Lone Tree case because he had fallen for a beautiful Russian woman. Next thing you know, some secrets slipped out. Oops, little pillow talk. And next thing you know, he's accused of, 17 counts of espionage? He was looking at the rest of his life in prison. He was a Native American, Clayton Lone Tree, and he was convicted on all counts. He served, I think, 15 or 16 years of that. And then it turned out the whole thing was, his defense lawyer was correct. It was a total overreaction. He hadn't told the Soviets anything they didn't already know, and they were going to lock him up for the rest of his life. So he finally got out after 16 years and vanished. I got curious. I went looking for him the other day because he was, big headlines back then. So I was like, whatever happened to Clayton Lone Tree? He vanished. He's still alive, I think, but he has not given interviews. He's never written a book. He just didn't ever want to face the public again. So he didn't go out looking for media attention. But so when you started doing journalism, who was president? Was it Reagan? Was it Bush? Bush 1? Bush 41?
Bush, yeah, the first Bush.
He was the first president I ever interviewed. I was working at KEBC. It was the election of 1988. He was running for president. He came through Oklahoma City, did a press conference, and I got to do a brief interview with him. Unfortunately, that tape is lost. But that's okay because I never liked him anyway.
Uh-huh.
But I do have a newscast with President Reagan. If you want to hear, I can't believe I'm actually telling you this. I'm that old. President Reagan was the president when I started doing journalism, which is just crazy. But here he is.
Back to the barn. Oh, that's a 73 satellite, by the way. I looked it up.
73.
73. If anybody cares, I do.
President Reagan, reviewing the state of U.S.-Soviet relations, welcomed the West German decision to scrap the 72 Pershing missiles on its soil as a further move towards an East-West arms agreement.
Earlier today, Chancellor Kohl removed even this artificial obstacle from consideration. We are therefore hopeful that the Soviet Union will demonstrate that there is substance behind the rhetoric they have repeated so often of late, that they genuinely want a stabilizing INF agreement.
The president said some further obstacles need to be overcome still, but he indicated that the prospects for a historic superpower treaty are increasingly bright in the near future. Meanwhile, the Reagan administration has reversed its position and has decided to give imminent danger bonuses to about 10,000 servicemen in the Persian Gulf region. That means about an extra $110 a month on the soldiers' paychecks. In local news, Haskell County voters have elected the son-in-law of the late County Commissioner Leo Reisner to take his place. 26-year-old Kelly Stout will replace his father-in-law, who was shot to death in his truck about a year ago. A Brinks messenger carrying 2 large money bags stumbled onto an armed robbery in progress this morning inside the Safeway grocery store at Northwest 18th and Classen. Police say 2 middle-aged gunmen from Texas walked into the store and herded the employees and customers into the back. But then the Brinks guy walked in completely unaware of what was going on, and the robbers immediately seized his money bags and ran. They didn't get far, though.
They started checking the I-35 corridor, especially restaurants and motels, and were able to come upon the vehicle at Northeast 27th and I-35 in Moore.
That's Captain Mike Heath of the Oklahoma City Police Department. Not a good day on Wall Street today. The Dow plummeted 21 points as 200 million shares traded off. And some intense thunderstorm activity is developing around the state. This just in, the National Weather Service has issued a severe thunderstorm warning effective until 5:30 p.m. for persons in eastern Garvin and southeastern McLean counties. These storms have been located about 5 miles east of Pauls Valley, moving to the northeast at 30 miles per hour. It shouldn't take too long for them to reach the metro area. Also be advised that there is a severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 10 o'clock for most of southern and central Oklahoma. The forecast for tonight calling for a 60% chance of thunderstorms with locally heavy rainfall likely, our low 68. Tomorrow, cloudy and cool, a 60% chance of thunderstorms again, our high only 80 degrees. Currently, it's mostly cloudy and 89. And Oklahoma's new leader, KEBC.
Man, oh man. Okay, your turn. I showed you mine. You gotta show me yours, Rick Walker.
Okay, hang on.
I had the poodle perm, like all the girls in the 80s did. You remember the poodle perm, right? All the girls
Yeah.
with yeah, I had that going on. Jeez, that was embarrassing. I know that you guys are going to like take those pictures and spread them all over the internet to embarrass me, aren't you?
Hang on, I'm just getting this queued up.
Oh, no. I can't believe I just played that.
There we go. All right, here we go.
Show us your stuff, Rick Walker.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
Okie dokie, here we go.
Oh, hang on.
Oh, you even got the old TV set.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is your audition for CTV, huh? Oh, my.
The leaders of the world's richest countries are admitting openly there is a worldwide unemployment problem.
If there's one thing that comes out of these meetings is just how deeply entrenched some of the problems are.
The flame going 1,000 feet up in the air, it was unreal.
Investigators say the fire started in a warehouse that was being used by a tire disposal company.
Rick, what time did the picket lines go up tonight?
About 2 hours ago, Lisa. There are still some workers inside the plant. It is still open, but production is pretty much at a standstill, and in less than half an hour, this plant will also be officially on strike.
All right, Rick Walker. Gotta have
Music
some
snacks
cars.
of the 1960s and the concept cars at this year's Detroit International Auto Show are, in many ways, a blast from the past.
Look at those cars.
are what draw people to the auto shows.
Over the past decade, aerodynamics have been the driving force behind automotive design, and those are the concepts that you're seeing on the road today. But in recent years, designers have started adding more lines to their concept vehicles. In short, the automakers are allowing designers to express themselves again. Native protesters have blocked this highway leading into Camp Ipperwash by setting a car and a pile of old tires on fire. Once a respected RCMP officer, Marko Yankovic, is now on trial for war crimes. He is accused of participating in the kidnapping and execution of over a dozen communist sympathizers in German-occupied Yugoslavia during World War II.
Look
I'm
at
Rick
that.
Walker in London, where the owner of this hemp store is selling victory bonds to finance a court battle against Canada's marijuana laws.
Our final story tonight is about Amanda, a little girl who took on a big city to save her treehouse. What was her secret weapon? A multi-million-dollar insurance policy. Rick Walker explains.
In her grandfather's backyard in the town known as the Forest City, 7-year-old Amanda Nekigiri has her own special place where she plays with her friends.
We color, we play games. Once me and my friends slept over, we ate breakfast up there.
But part of Amanda's Victorian-style treehouse hangs above a city sidewalk. A little over a year ago, City Hall told Amanda her house was a hazard and ordered it torn down. Amanda's father has been fighting to save the treehouse ever since.
They've had surveyors out here, they had the city lawyers on it, they had someone draft up a site plan, they've had council meetings on it. This is a treehouse for kids.
Now Amanda's father has signed a $5 million insurance policy. It will cost nearly as much to insure the treehouse as it does to insure the family's real home. But the city is backing off.
The whole house, 1,600 square feet, is $311, I believe, a year, and a treehouse of 12 square feet is $240.
Mark Nekigiri says the $240 annual insurance premium on the treehouse is so high it defies logic. But he says his daughter is worth it.
I'm glad it's over, so me and my friends can play in the summer, so now I'm really happy.
Rick Walker, CTV News, London.
Oh, is that it? Bravo. I want more. That's so good. The mustache, though. That was so Ron Burgundy. No, you were sharp, Rick Walker. That's the first time I've ever seen some of your old work. Thanks for sharing that.
Okay, so I'm thoroughly embarrassed.
I bet you are. Rick's just kind of shrinking down under the desk.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.